Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Zephron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So, Tuesday means it's Type 2 or Standard Tuesday, and we have a pretty spicy list today. This is White-Black Planeswalkers, recently Joshua McCray to a top 8 finish at a SCG Standard IQ, so congrats to Joshua on their finish with the deck. A quick reminder before we break it all down, if you enjoy this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So White-Black Planeswalkers, as the name suggests, is built around a whole bunch of Planeswalkers. The basic theory of this deck is to be kind of a White-Black control deck, but then after killing your opponent's stuff on turn 1, maybe disrupting them in another way on turn 2, starting on turn 3 and going up until turn 6, you just curve out with Planeswalkers and hope that having these repeatable card advantage generating engines on the battlefield is enough to bring home the victory. So on turn 3, we got Liliana the Last Hope, good at slowing down some creatures. -2, -1 is more relevant than it looks. The -2 isn't super exciting. The deck only has 4 total creatures, so you're not really going to hit with it very often. But if you can put up defenses with Liliana and other Planeswalkers, get to the ultimate, it's almost guaranteed to win the game. The zombies take over the game in short order. On turn 4, we have Gideon, ally of Zendikar, which goes 2 ways. If you can just use a bunch of removal, kill all your opponent's blockers, you can beat down with Gideon and win pretty quickly. On the other hand, you can also just make tokens, use them to chump. You got Liliana taking care of another creature, helping you get to that Liliana ultimate to win the game. And then on turn 5, we have Obnixilis Reignited, which is like the prototypical black Planeswalker. It's almost like a Phyrexian Arena with the +1. You get to draw a card, lose a life, helps you find more removal, more Planeswalkers, you can kill something, and also, if you can get there with your Gideon tokens and Liliana pluses, the emblem is pretty game-ending. Like Liliana's, it takes a few turns, but it does close out the game. And then, last but not least, we have Sorin Grim Nemesis at the top of the curve for turn 6. More card advantage generation with the plus ability. Also does damage, so it closes out the game. You can also just shoot down creatures or Planeswalkers, and then the ultimate can kind of win the game depending on the situation. So these are the cards that allow us to win the game, and hopefully we're going to play a whole bunch of them one after another, turn after turn. As far as creatures, 2 copies of Thraben Inspector gives you a little bit of chump blocking on turn 1, gets you a clue, and then a couple of Gantis. Death Touch lets it take down big things, plus you get to steal something from the top of your opponent's deck. And then we have a bunch of removals. So these are the cards that hopefully will allow you to start playing Planeswalkers on turns 3 through turn 6 on an open board. That's the kind of the goal of this deck, is you can Fatal Push and Grasp of Darkness and Blessed Alliance on turn 1 and 2 to kill your opponent's first threats, and then your Lilianas and Gideons and Obnixilises can just take over the game if the board's empty. They're also pretty cheap, so you can use these after you play a Planeswalker. On turn 4, Liliana plus Fatal Push, for example, or turn 5, Liliana plus Grasp of Darkness. So there's a bunch of combinations that you can use removal plus Planeswalker in the same turn. Then we have some unconditional removal. Anguish Unmaking lets us kill pretty much anything, costs a bit of life, but that's alright. Ruinous Path gets Planeswalkers as well as creatures. And then we have some Wraths. Flaying Tendrils sweeps away a whole bunch of little creatures, especially good against the Mardu vehicle type decks that are playing Thraben Inspectors and Toolcraft Exemplars and all that kind of stuff. And then Fumigate just takes care of all creatures. Not as good in this standard as in some because of vehicles, but still, it's a Wrath, gains some life. Then we have a single main deck Fragmentize, takes care of Heart of Kiran's, other cheap artifacts. And then in the mana base, a bunch of black-white duels, including Shambling Vents, which is kind of another backup win con, helps gain some life, which makes up for Anguish Unmaking and for Obnixilis pluses, things like that that kind of cost life. And also Blighted Fen as another way to deal with a creature. Then some Swamps and Plains. In the sideboard, we kind of have stuff based on what matchup they're for. So Authority of the Councils and Lost Legacy come in against the copycat combo decks. They're just essentially ways to answer the combo. You can also bring in Lost Legacy if you run into like an Ulamog Aetherworks Marvel deck to get rid of the Ulamogs. Then we have an aggro package. Gifted Aetherborn and Cletus can come in against essentially any aggressive deck. You can bring it in against black-green, you can bring it in against Mardu. A Fragmentize, though, is more just for Mardu and other random artifact decks you run into. Then we have a ton of stuff for more controlling matchups. Chemball deals a bunch of damage, gains you some life. Midnight Oil gives you some grindy card advantage to fight through your opponent's counter spells and removal. Transgress the Mind to deal with your opponent's answers and threats. And then a Quarantine Field just to get rid of whatever you need to. And that is White-Black Planeswalkers for Aether Revolt Standard. And that's our instant deck for today. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And I will talk to you soon.